This is going to be the first piece of the anvil. So this Dana 60 has a 3.5 inch diameter axle tube. So I have a piece of 4-inch quarter wall pipe that I cut a 3.5 inch radius into, so it fits up right on the axle like so. And I'm leaving about an 1/8 of an inch gap in between the cutter and this piece. And this piece is a couple reasons I'm doing it this way. I was going to do it with some round tubing like Mike Gibbs did, and I just don't have enough of it. But I have a bunch of these that are just scrap metal that are, you know, anywhere from 6 inches to 2 feet long. And it's kind of useless for anything I normally do. This is a material I normally make back bumpers out of for our big rigs. But this is all cut off scraps that's not getting used. So I've got the pinion level, and I'm going to level this. That way, whenever I decide where the axle is actually going to sit, whether it goes on a trailer or a dolly, whatever, I set the height of the axle, and these two will be in an even plane, which will make mounting the motor a lot easier as well. And being 3.5 inch tubing here and a full notch, I'm using half of the axle tube as a brace. So this is going to be super strong because I'll be able to weld top and bottom and across the sides all the way around. This is going to be about as stout as could be, and it's going to give me a little bit of the scissoring action for the cutter here, but it's also going to be my mounting point for the anvil that goes across. I might bring the anvil back and brace it in even more, but I'm going to get this piece welded on and then kind of eyeball it up, see what I think about it, and then figure out how far I want to make this piece here. So that's the idea, at least for the first piece. I got the cutter bolted down right now, just so I've got an exact point of how far out it's going to reach. That gives me a better point of where this will sit at. And I did cut this on just the tiniest bit of an angle this way. No particular reason. I just kind of looked at the cutter and the angle it came at, and I was like, well, I should probably just kick that a degree or two. Probably wasn't remotely needed, but just what I felt like doing, so that's how it is. Like I said, I know I've got the pinion level right now, so I'm just going to level this, get it tacked in place.
Damn close. I don't know that.
Okay, now I'm going to start mocking up how the anvil's going to sit. Next thing I'm doing, before I go any further, building out the anvil, I've got a little cutter head that I made. It's going to go over here on the side. It will act as a splitter for board type material, or so I get a lot of 4x4s, 2x4s, 4x6s, stuff like that. That's all good feedstock for the gasifier, but a little bit bigger than I plan on this chunker doing, so I'm going to be adding a cutter attachment that I made over here to be able to split that and then jump over and start chunking it. So this is just some 3/8 mild. I put a little double bevel on it. It's beveled so that the splitting edge, when it comes down, the split edge will be kicked out this way over towards the chunker. I don't want it getting kicked over and hitting into the rim. I feel like that might cause problems. And this is kind of a, I don't know how well it's going to work. There's other guys who've done it. I got the idea from Wayne. I like how it looked and like how it looked in his videos and how well it worked, so I'm going to give it a try. have my square here just because I'm being anal and I want it to be square with the rest of the system. Holy crap, I nailed it first try. Better get another tack on there. That doesn't happen often, but I'm okay with it.
Snap locked in place while attached. Burn it in.
And I know the internet welding keyboard warriors will be on me about welding downhill with a MIG, but oh well. As long as I don't think it's going to go anywhere, I think it'll do the job. See the bevel I got on it? It's not super aggressive. That way, when the rest of the anvil's built out over here, there'll be a notch that slides through, and I can set a board on there that'll swing around, smack it, split it, give me the smaller feedstock, slide right in. So that's how that's going to work. Okay, so now I got magnet top and bottom in a square. Help me get everything set. Got my level close by. I have first piece of the anvil that goes across the back, cut and ready. I also have it notched out to where it will go around the splitting attachment. And I'm probably going to turn this into a little bit of a time lapse because this is going to take me several minutes to get in place, knock it around, level it up, get it just the way I want. But you can see how I got it notched out there. I gave this side a little bit of a chamfer just because my weld sat a little bit too proud, and I'd rather remove the material here than remove any of my weld. Just my personal preference. Gonna have to do a little bit of clearancing, but kind of expected that. It's just an irregular spot in my weld that touches just a little bit. That's what I was concerned with. It actually touches the anvil a little bit. I kind of figured that was going to happen because this isn't perfectly concentric, but that's what we have big hammers for. Okay, I'll do a little touch-up grinding. I'm gonna have to turn the heat up to burn this inside corner so that my weld doesn't get too close, because it touches the cutter just a little bit. But if I want to have that nice tight scissoring action where it's gonna, if it does any flex, it doesn't have anywhere to go, I need it to stay tight. Okay, I think I finally have something I'm happy with design wise for the cutter head to actually sit inside of. So as the cutter head is coming around, you can see right about there. See right here, I took, and this is only tacked in place, so I might still mess with it a little bit. So here I've got another piece of this box tubing, and I split it to make a piece of angle iron. I wanted something nice and stout right here, because right here is going to be where the wood is resting at right before it gets chunked. So I took another piece of that same square tube, cut it down into flat stock, so this is all 1/4 inch construction. I took and laid a piece of it up on here and then spun the cutter around until I could see what the radius was. I traced out the radius, took it over to the bandsaw, split it in half, and I have half of it tacked right here and the other half right there on the inside. Now, like I said, they're just tacked in place, but this gives it a nice groove for the cutter to slide down inside of. That way, hopefully I don't get any strings connecting my chunks, because the cutter head slides inside and actually goes past the piece of wood in here to slice it off completely. So this is just what I came up with that I kind of like it. I'm still gonna do some changing. So obviously full weld across the top, back here to hold this plate in place. This one will get welded back here and probably down to the axle, or to the other brace right here. And then I'm going to have some 45-degree braces here and out here, maybe one in the middle, I'm not sure yet. Figure that out. But at least now I've got a nice groove that the cutter slide right inside of. Make a full and complete cut. Well, since apparently I forgot to hit the button, I'll show you guys what I got now. So, everything is fully welded to the axle, out here to the anvil. Took 2 pieces of C-channel, built my braces. You can see they're quite beefy. And the way I figured it, you can see where the groove that the cutter sits in starts. I wanted to be braced out here on this corner where there's going to be a whole lot of load on this small piece of material. That's why I went with the C-channel as well, because it gets a lot more push instead of having a 45-degree bracket. I figured this is going to be stronger. And then I placed the second one just behind where the groove is, so I'm braced on both sides of the groove where I figure the most load is going to be when it starts chunking. So all fully welded up. I was gonna time lapse that, but whoops, sometimes I screw up. Yep, I think it'll do her. And if you're just curious, I don't honestly figure to chunk anything bigger than maybe a 2x4 with this system. That's why I put the splitter in place, so I can take a 2x6 and split it down. I'll probably even take 2x4 and split it down, just because that's what I normally do with my sawed wood. But if you're curious, that leaves me, I could chunk something 3.5 inch and be fully braced up against the backing here. I could build it up a little bit for something bigger, but I just don't realistically see a need to chunk anything that big. If I was like Wayne and I was getting sawmill slabs, then yeah, I would probably build it a little bit bigger, because you could get that all the way up to, you know, 10-12 inches maybe even bigger. But if I were, even if I do get something like that, I'll probably do it just like Wayne does, cut it up to firewood length, pop it with the axe or with the splitting anvil there, and then run it through. Okay, so that completes the anvil build. It may end up getting some guards later on just for hand protection, but I'm just thinking right now, if I look at where the cutter hits, right there. Now if I was going to be splitting a 2x6, so there's enough room right now that I could throw a 2x6 on there and have, you know, a 2-inch chunk over here and the rest of it over here. And if I put a guard in this area, a window, kind of like Wayne's chunker, it might get in the way. So I don't know. Not sure about that. I'll think on that. But next thing is going to have to be that motor and how it's going to drive. Start tinkering with that and get it figured out how I'm going to do it.